The desert sun burned endlessly above the mining colony of Corin. The pale orange sky stretched over jagged mountains, and the wind carried clouds of fine red dust. Among the harsh terrain, the alien-run labor camp looked like a scar on the land. High walls of black metal surrounded rows of human workers who toiled without rest. Machines groaned and hissed, and alien guards patrolled the area with cold. Mechanical precision, Rian wiped sweat from his forehead and glanced around the yard. His arms ached, his back burned, and his stomach growled. But he had learned that complaining drew the guards' attention, and punishment followed quickly. Each day blurred into the next. Wake, work, eat, sleep, repeat. Every moment was a test of endurance. He remembered his life before the camp. A small settlement on a quiet planet, a family who laughed at the evenings, the smell of fresh soil after rain. It seemed like a dream now, a memory from another lifetime. Here humans were considered tools, nothing more. The alien overlords ran the colony efficiently. But with cruelty, Rian's chains clinked as he moved toward the excavation site. His hands were calloused from handling heavy tools. Other prisoners worked beside him, their faces pale, their eyes empty. Some had been here for years. Some had given up hope entirely. Rian refused to let himself sink into despair. A small spark of determination kept him moving. Freedom might seem impossible, but he had to believe it existed. The aliens supervising the site were tall, with sleek metallic skin that shimmered in the sunlight. Their faces had sharp angles, with eyes like black mirrors. They spoke in a harsh, clicking language which the humans could not understand. Commands barked in alien tones, and failure was punished with pain. Rian crouched over a metal slab, prying rocks and debris from the excavation pit. Dust choked his throat, and the sun burned his neck, but he worked quickly, trying to finish before the midday inspection. He felt the weight of invisible chains around his spirit, heavier than the metal shackles on his wrists. Every day was a battle of patience, endurance, and survival. Rian, a voice whispered. It was soft, human, barely audible over the machinery. He turned, squinting through the haze of dust and heat. It was Lena, a fellow prisoner who often worked nearby. "Be careful," she said, her eyes darting toward the guards. "They are watching." "Don't slow down," Rian nodded. Lena was small but fierce. She had learned how to survive here, just like him. They had formed an unspoken alliance. Together, they shared small moments of hope. Like stolen sips of water or whispered stories about home, the day dragged on, each hour heavier than the last. Rian's hands were raw, and his muscles burned, but he forced himself to continue. The guards walked past, checking each prisoner with cold precision. One of them paused near Rian, eyes scanning his work. Rian lowered his gaze, pretending to be exhausted and broken. The guard moved on, and Rian allowed himself a quiet sigh of relief as the sun began to dip behind the jagged mountains. Painting the sky in shades of red and purple, the camp grew quieter. Most prisoners were too tired to speak. Rian leaned against a wall, feeling the heat of the day still radiating from the metal ground. He closed his eyes for a moment, imagining the soft grass of his home, the gentle wind through the trees. Suddenly a shadow passed over the camp. Rian opened his eyes and looked up. The sky, once pale orange, had turned a strange shade of green. A figure descended from above, moving with a speed and grace that seemed impossible. The guards stiffened, their eyes wide in surprise. It was Chimera, the Chimera lady. Her appearance was unlike anything Rian had ever seen. She was tall and strong, her body a blend of human and alien traits. Her skin shimmered with faint iridescent patterns, and her eyes glowed with a soft golden light. Her long hair flowed like liquid silver behind her as she landed silently among the prisoners. Ryan's breath caught in his throat. Chimera was a legend among the humans. She was feared by the alien overlords and spoken of in whispers among prisoners. Stories said she had fought entire alien squads alone and freed those who were enslaved. Now she was here. Without a word, Chimera moved through the camp. Her hands glowed faintly with energy. Where she touched the chains of prisoners, they melted away like wax. The prisoners stared in shock and hope. Rian felt the shackles around his wrists vanish. His hands were free for the first time in months. "Come," Chimera said, her voice soft but commanding. It carried an authority that made the aliens hesitate. Rian did not question her. He stepped forward, feeling the weight of captivity lift from his body. Lena followed closely behind him, her eyes wide with awe. The alien guards tried to stop her. They raised weapons, but Chimera moved faster than the eye could follow. She disarmed them with swift, precise strikes. The prisoners gasped as she dismantled the patrol with ease. It was not just strength that impressed them. It was her intelligence, her strategy, her command of the battlefield. Rian ran alongside Chimera, feeling a thrill he had not felt in months. Freedom was not just a dream, it was real, and it was here. He could hear the pounding of his heart in his chest, loud against the quiet chaos of the camp. They reached the edge of the compound, where cliffs dropped into the desert below. Chimera paused and looked back at the prisoners. "Follow me," she said. "Do not look back. They will try to stop us." Rian took a deep breath and followed. The desert stretched before them, wide and dangerous. Sandstorms, predators, and alien patrols awaited them. But for the first time, Rian did not feel like a prisoner. He felt alive. As they moved into the open desert, Chimera glanced at him. "You are strong," she said. "Stronger than you know, but strength alone is not enough. You must learn to think, to act, to survive. Do you want that freedom?" Rian nodded, his throat tight with emotion. "I want it," he said. "I want to fight. I want to be free." Chimera's eyes softened. "Good. Then you will walk with me. You are no longer mine. You are yours. But you belong with me in this fight. I will teach you. You will learn. And together, we will change this world." The sky grew darker as night approached. Stars appeared, distant and cold, yet beautiful. The desert wind whipped against their faces, carrying the scent of sand and distant mountains. Rian felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. The world was dangerous, but it was no longer impossible. For the first time. He believed that humans could endure, could survive, could rise even in the harshest conditions. And he believed that with Chimera at his side. There was hope for more than survival. There was hope for freedom, for courage, for change, as they disappeared into the desert. Leaving the labor camp behind, Rian glanced back one last time. The walls of the prison seemed smaller now, weaker, insignificant. He felt a fire ignite in his chest, a fire that no alien overlord could ever extinguish. Chimera walked ahead, silent and commanding, her presence both terrifying and comforting. Rian followed, ready to face whatever came next. The journey had begun, and he knew that the chains of the past were broken forever. The desert of Corin stretched endlessly before Rian, sand swirled in waves, and the sun's heat was a constant burning presence. For hours he ran alongside Chimera, his muscles aching, his lungs struggling, but he did not slow. She moved with a grace and strength that seemed impossible, and he pushed himself to keep up. Behind them, the sounds of the alien patrols faded. But Rian knew it was only a matter of time before they caught up. Chimera did not speak at first. Her eyes scanned the horizon, alert for danger, while her steps were precise and confident. Rian watched her in awe. She was unlike anyone he had ever met. Part human, part alien, she radiated power and control. Her presence was calming yet fierce, and Rian felt both fear and inspiration in equal measure. After a long stretch of running, Chimera stopped at the edge of a deep canyon. She turned to face Rian, her golden eyes catching the light of the fading sun. "We must cross this canyon carefully," she said. "The patrols know the terrain better than we do, and the desert is not kind to the unprepared. You will need to trust me and follow my instructions." Rian nodded, still breathing heavily. "I will follow," he said. "Tell me what to do." Chimera extended her hand, and Rian noticed the faint glow of energy around her fingertips. "Hold on to me," she instructed. "I can guide us across safely, but you must not let go unless I say." Jan grasped her hand, feeling warmth and strength radiate through her touch. He had never felt so secure, yet so aware of danger. With a powerful leap, Chimera launched herself across the canyon, landing gracefully on the opposite side. Rian followed, gripping her hand tightly, and managed to cross without falling into the chasm below. They paused for a moment, catching their breath. Rian looked down at the canyon and felt a shiver run through him. The desert was beautiful in its harshness, but it was deadly. Chimera's calm confidence gave him courage, and he realized that he could survive if he trusted her. "Why are you helping us?" Rian asked, breaking the silence. His voice was shaky, but he needed to understand. Chimera's eyes darkened slightly. "Because I cannot stand by while these aliens enslave humans. I have my own reasons, my own history with them. But you humans have something they do not understand. You have courage, ingenuity, and the will to survive. That is why I fight. That is why I will not let them take you." Rian listened, captivated. Her words were simple, but they carried meaning. Humans were weak compared to the alien overlords in terms of physical strength. But Chimera saw something in them that she respected. He felt a surge of pride. Perhaps humans were not just victims. Perhaps they could fight back. The night fell quickly over the desert and the temperature dropped. Chimera led Rian to a small cave hidden among jagged rocks. It was dark inside, but safe from prying eyes. She crouched beside the entrance, her glowing eyes scanning the horizon. "Rest for a short while," she said. "We cannot stop for long, but even a few hours will help you regain strength." Rian sat on the cold ground, leaning against the rock wall. He could hear the wind whistling outside and the distant cries of desert creatures. For the first time in months, he felt safe, even if only temporarily. He looked at Chimera, who stood silently at the entrance, alert and watchful. "I never thought I would see freedom again," Rian said softly. "I thought my life would end in that camp." Chimera turned her eyes toward him. "Freedom is not given. It is taken. And it comes with responsibility. You must learn to fight, to think, to survive. You cannot rely on anyone else, not even me. I will guide you, but the strength must come from within." Rian nodded, absorbing her words. He realized that freedom was not just escaping the chains on his wrists. True freedom meant having the courage to face danger, the will to make decisions, and the determination to protect those he cared about as he rested. Chimera spoke again, her voice softer this time. "You are not just a prisoner, Rian. You have potential. Humans have something rare in this galaxy. You adapt, you learn, you endure. That is why I chose you." Rian felt a mixture of pride and humility. He had never thought of himself as special. Yet Chimera's words sparked a new feeling inside him, a desire to rise above fear and weakness. The night passed slowly. Rian tried to sleep, but his mind raced with thoughts of the camp, the alien guards, and the unknown dangers ahead. Chimera remained vigilant, standing watch at the entrance. He could see the faint glow of her energy as she scanned the desert, ready to strike if any patrol approached. As dawn broke, the sky painted in soft shades of pink and gold, Chimera spoke again. "We must move before the patrols regroup. The desert is vast, but they know every path. We will take an uncharted route. You will need to trust me completely." Rian rose, feeling the stiffness in his muscles. He glanced at the desert stretching endlessly before him. It was dangerous, unpredictable, and unforgiving. But he was ready. He had no choice but to trust Chimera and himself. The journey through the desert tested him in ways he had never imagined. Sandstorms whipped around them, reducing visibility to near zero. Chimera led him through rocky canyons and narrow ravines, using her strength and agility to clear paths. Rian struggled, but he kept moving, learning from her every step. At one point, they encountered a pack of desert predators creatures with armored scales and sharp claws. Chimera moved quickly, using her hybrid strength and glowing energy to fend them off. Rian watched in amazement as she dispatched the creatures with skill and precision. Then she turned to him. "Your turn," she said. "Think, act, survive. Remember, fear is your enemy." Rian took a deep breath and remembered what Chimera had taught him. He grabbed a nearby rock and threw it at one of the creatures, aiming for its sensitive eyes. The creature yelped and stumbled back, giving them a chance to escape. Chimera nodded in approval. Good, you are learning. For hours, they moved through the desert, facing sandstorms, predators, and treacherous terrain. Rian's body ached, and his hands were blistered, but he felt alive for the first time in months. Every challenge was a lesson. Every danger was an opportunity to grow stronger. During a brief rest, under the shade of jagged rocks, Rian finally spoke. Why do you care so much about humans? You are part alien. You could leave us behind. Chimera looked at him, her golden eyes thoughtful. I am part alien, yes. But I am also part human. I understand both sides, and I know the value of freedom, courage, and loyalty. Humans are underestimated in this galaxy. I will not let them be crushed by oppression. Not while I live. Rian felt a surge of respect. Chimera was not just strong. She was wise, strategic, and fearless. He realized that he wanted to learn from her, to fight alongside her, to prove that humans could endure and overcome even the harshest challenges as the sun began to set again. Chimera led him to a hidden oasis, an underground spring that few had ever discovered. Water sparkled in the dim light, and the air was cool and refreshing. For the first time since his capture, Rian could drink freely, wash away the dust and sweat, and feel human again. Chimera knelt beside the water, her reflection shimmering alongside his. Rest here for a while, she said. Tomorrow, we continue. The path ahead is dangerous, but together, we can survive. You will see what humans are truly capable of. Rian nodded, feeling a sense of peace mixed with anticipation. The desert was still dangerous, and the patrols would not give up easily. But with Chimera guiding him, he felt hope. For the first time, believed that freedom was not a dream, it was within reach. As he lay beside the water, staring at the faint glow of the oasis, Rian reflected on the events of the past day. The camp, the chains, the alien oppression, they were behind him now. What mattered was the journey ahead, the lessons he would learn, and the strength he would discover within himself. Chimera's presence was a constant reassurance. She was fierce, fearless, and powerful, yet she trusted him to grow and survive. Rian realized that this journey was not just about escaping the aliens. It was about discovering the true potential of humans. It's about learning courage, resilience, and hope. Night fell over the desert once more. Stars glimmered in the sky, distant and cold, but beautiful. Rian closed his eyes, letting the sound of the wind and the gentle splash of the oasis calm his mind. He was free, but freedom required courage, determination, and trust. He had both, and so the first day of his true journey ended. Rian was no longer a prisoner. He was a survivor, a learner, and a fighter. Chimera had broken his chains, but she had also awakened something stronger within him, a spark that could grow into fire. A fire that would not be extinguished by fear or oppression. The desert was wide and dangerous, but Rian was ready. With Chimera at his side, he would face every challenge, overcome every obstacle, and prove that humans were capable of more than anyone had ever imagined. The desert of Corin was no longer just a stretch of sand and rock. To Rian, it had become a test of endurance, courage, and skill. Each step was measured, each breath calculated. He had survived the labor camp, escaped with Chimera, and now faced the wilds beyond. The landscape was dangerous, with jagged cliffs, deep canyons, and sandstorms that could blind even the most experienced traveler. Chimera led the way, moving with quiet confidence. Her eyes constantly scanned the horizon, alert for any threat. Rian struggled to match her pace, but he was learning. His body was sore, his muscles tight from exhaustion, yet his mind was sharper. Every step taught him more about the desert, about survival, and about himself. Watch the ground, Chimera said without looking back. Predators are not always obvious. Some hide, waiting for prey to stumble. You must be aware of everything, Rian obeyed, keeping his eyes on the shifting sands. He noticed small movement shadows flickering, the glitter of scales in the sun, the faint rustle of unseen creatures. Chimera moved silently past each hazard, and he tried to imitate her, though he stumbled more than once. "Do not worry about perfection," Chimera said after he nearly tripped over a jagged rock. "You will learn by experience. Survival is not about avoiding mistakes, but about recovering from them."
Oh.
Rian nodded, feeling a surge of determination. Chimera's words were more than advice. They were lessons in resilience. Humans had a reputation for weakness among alien civilizations, but she saw their potential. He wanted to prove her right. Hours passed. The sun climbed high, beating down on them relentlessly. Sweat poured from Rian's body, and his throat burned with thirst. Chimera, despite her hybrid nature, seemed unaffected by the heat, moving with ease and precision. Yet she always paused to ensure he could keep up. As they crossed a narrow canyon, a sudden movement caught Rian's eye. A group of desert predators creatures with armored scales, sharp claws, and glowing eyes blocked their path. They hissed and advanced slowly, circling for an attack. Rian froze, fear rising in his chest. Chimera did not hesitate. Her eyes glowed brighter, and her hands emitted a soft, pulsing light. With swift, precise movements, she struck at the nearest predator. Energy arcs from her hands, stunning it. Another predator lunged, but she twisted gracefully. Striking with the strength and speed that seemed impossible for any human, Rian's heart raced. He had never seen combat like this before. The predators were powerful, but Chimera was stronger, faster, and more skilled. Then she turned to him. "Your turn," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Use what you have learned. Think quickly. Act decisively." Rian picked up a sharp rock and hurled it at one of the creatures. It hit its target, distracting it long enough for Chimera to finish the fight. He felt a surge of pride. For the first time, he had contributed to their survival. Chimera nodded at him. "Good. You are learning. Humans are stronger than they realize." They continued through the canyon, moving cautiously but steadily. Rian noticed subtle signs of life around them: teeny burrows, tracks in the sand, and the distant calls of creatures he could not see. Chimera taught him how to read these signs, how to anticipate danger, and how to use the terrain to their advantage. By evening, they reached the edge of a rocky plateau. From there, the desert stretched endlessly, dotted with distant mountains and hidden valleys. Chimera paused and gestured for Rian to sit beside her. "This is a place humans rarely see," she said. "It is both beautiful and deadly. You must respect it." Rian looked out over the vast landscape. The colors of the sunset painted the desert in shades of red, gold, and purple. He felt a strange mix of awe and fear. The desert was unforgiving, but it was also magnificent. For the first time, he understood that survival required both courage and respect for the world around him. Chimera turned to him. "You have come far, Rian, but this is only the beginning. The wilds are not just a test of strength. They are a test of mind, heart, and will. Humans have something special. You adapt, you learn, you endure. That is why you survive where others would fall." Rian felt a warmth in his chest. Her words were more than encouragement. They were recognition. He realized that he had grown stronger, not just physically, but mentally. Fear no longer controlled him. Determination had taken its place. That night, they camped under a natural rock formation. Chimera created a small shield of energy around them, protecting against predators and the chill of the desert night. Rian drank from a water pouch and ate a small portion of dried food she had carried. The comfort of safety was new and strange, yet deeply welcome. "Tell me about yourself," Rian said, breaking the silence. "How did you come to be? Why do you fight the aliens?" Chimera's eyes reflected the starlight as she spoke. "I was born part human, part alien. My mother was human, captured by the same overlords who now enslave others. My father was alien, but he opposed the tyranny of our kind. I grew up learning both worlds, knowing the cruelty and the potential for good. I fight because I cannot stand by and watch injustice continue. I fight because humans have something rare, something worth protecting." Rian listened, captivated. Chimera's story was filled with pain, strength, and purpose. He felt a connection to her, not just as a guide or savior, but as someone who understood the value of courage and survival. "Do you think I can fight like you?" he asked, a hint of doubt in his voice. Chimera smiled faintly. "You already are fighting, Rian. Every step you take, every challenge you face. Every choice to keep going, that is fighting. Strength comes in many forms. Humans are clever, resourceful, and adaptable. You have all the tools you need. I will guide you, but the effort must come from within you." Rian nodded, feeling a surge of determination. He would not just survive. He would learn, grow, and prove that humans were capable of greatness. The next morning, they continued their journey. Chimera taught Rian how to find water in the desert, how to recognize safe paths, and how to avoid ambushes. She showed him how to move silently, how to listen to the sounds of the environment, and how to anticipate danger. Each lesson was small but vital, building his confidence and skills. At midday, they discovered a hidden valley, lush with vegetation and filled with small streams. It was a rare oasis in the harsh desert. Chimera led Rian to a shaded area and gestured for him to rest. "We will stay here for a short time. It is safe, but only briefly. The patrols may still search for us." Rian marveled at the beauty of the valley. The air was cool and fresh, filled with the scent of plants and water. Birds sang in the distance, and small animals scurried among the rocks. For the first time since his capture, Rian felt at peace. Chimera watched him closely. "Rest is important," she said. "Even the strongest fighters must recover. Survival is not just strength. It is strategy, endurance, and patience." "You are learning that quickly," Rian nodded. "I want to learn everything," he said. "I want to be ready for whatever comes next." Chimera's eyes softened. "You will be. Humans have something the aliens cannot understand. You endure, you adapt, you rise. That is why I chose to help you. That is why I believe in you." As night fell, the valley glowed under the starlight. Rian sat beside the stream, letting the cool water soothe his hands and feet. He thought of the camp, the chains, and the alien oppression. Those memories were painful, but they also fueled his determination. He would never forget them, and he would never allow himself to be powerless again. Chimera sat beside him, silent and watchful. Rian realized that her presence was both a shield and a challenge. She protected him, but she also pushed him to grow. With her guidance, he could learn to survive, to fight, and to rise above fear. The desert night was quiet, but filled with life. Rian listened to the sounds around him, the rustle of leaves, the distant calls of animals, the whisper of the wind. He felt connected to the world in a way he had never experienced in the labor camp. Freedom was not just an absence of chains. It was the chance to grow, to learn, and to discover the strength within. As he drifted into a light sleep, Rian made a promise to himself. He would not be weak. He would not be a victim. He would rise, learn, and fight. And he would do so alongside Chimera, the Chimera lady who had broken his chains and shown him a world beyond fear. The journey through the wilds was only beginning. Danger lay ahead, but so did opportunity. Rian was no longer a prisoner. He was a student, a fighter, and a survivor. And with Chimera by his side, he knew that humans could endure anything, rise above any challenge, and prove their worth in a galaxy that had underestimated them for far too long. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows across the rugged landscape of Corin. Rian and Chimera moved carefully through a dense valley, where jagged rocks and twisted trees created a natural labyrinth. Every step was cautious, every sound examined. Danger was never far. But the humans and Chimera had grown stronger and smarter with every challenge. Their goal was the hidden rebel sanctuary. It was said to be deep within the mountains, a place where humans and other free creatures worked together to resist the alien overlords. Chimera had fought to reach it for years, building alliances, protecting its location, and preparing for the day when the enslaved would rise. "Keep close," Chimera instructed. "The patrols are still searching. We cannot afford mistakes, Rian nodded, sweat dripping down his face. His muscles ached from the journey through the wilds, but he had grown stronger. Chimera's lessons had transformed him from a frightened captive into a capable fighter, alert and ready for the dangers ahead. They climbed a steep ridge, the wind whipping against them, carrying dust and the scent of distant forests. Chimera paused and gestured to a narrow path leading between jagged cliffs. This is the safest route. Stay quiet, follow my lead, and trust your instincts. Rian tightened his grip on his makeshift weaponer, sharpened metal rod he had fashioned during the journey. It was crude, but effective in skilled hands. Chimera glanced at him, her golden eyes softening. You have learned well. Humans are clever, resourceful. That is why you survive. As they crested the ridge, a small encampment came into view. Hidden in a dense forest at the base of a mountain, the rebel sanctuary was alive with activity. Humans trained, repaired equipment, and organized supplies. Chimera led Rian down the slope, keeping to the shadows to avoid detection. When they entered the heart of the camp, Rian felt awe. The rebels were a mix of humans, hybrids like Chimera, and a few alien allies who had defected from the overlords. Their weapons were crude compared to the alien technology, but their determination was powerful. They moved with purpose. Their eyes filled with hope and courage. Chimera guided Rian to the center of the sanctuary, where a small council of rebel leaders waited. They looked up, surprised but respectful. Chimera, one of them said, "A human woman with short dark hair, you have returned with a new ally?" "This is Rian," Chimera said. "He is human, resourceful, and capable. He has survived the desert and learned to fight. He will be an asset to the rebellion." Rian stepped forward, feeling a mixture of pride and nervousness. He had never imagined himself in a place like this, among humans and allies who were not afraid to resist. Yet he felt ready. For the first time, he felt a purpose beyond survival. The council studied him carefully. "We will test your skills," the woman said. "Survival is not enough. The aliens will strike again. You must learn strategy, defense, and leadership." Chimera placed a hand on Rian's shoulder. "You are ready. The lessons I have taught you are only the beginning. Here you will grow stronger, and humans will prove their strength. Are you prepared?" Rian nodded firmly. "I am ready." The next days were a blur of training and preparation. Rian learned to handle weapons, build traps, and move stealthily through forests and rocky terrain. He observed the alien strategies and began to understand their weaknesses. Chimera guided him, correcting mistakes and encouraging him. Each lesson built his confidence and skill. Rian discovered that humans' greatest strength was their ability to think creatively and adapt quickly. While the aliens relied on brute force and rigid tactics, humans could improvise, analyze, and find solutions in moments of crisis. Chimera reminded him constantly that ingenuity and courage could change the tide of battle. One evening, as the sun dipped below the mountains, Chimera took Rian aside. "Tomorrow, the alien overlords will strike," she said. "They will attempt to destroy the sanctuary. You must be ready. This will be your first true test." Rian felt a mix of fear and excitement. He had trained, learned, and grown, but facing the aliens directly was different. The stories he had heard as a prisoner were terrifying. Now, the threat was real, and he could not run. He looked at Chimera, who met his gaze calmly. "I will fight by your side. Trust yourself. Trust humanity. You are stronger than you know." The next morning, the alarm sounded. Alien patrols approached, moving with precision and brutality. The sanctuary erupted into action. Rebels took positions, barricaded entrances, and prepared traps. Rian stood beside Chimera, adrenaline surging through his veins. The first wave of aliens struck hard. Their weapons fired energy blasts, cutting through rock and sand. The humans fought back with traps, improvised explosives, and coordinated attacks. Chimera moved among them, her strength and speed unmatched. Protecting the weakest and directing others with authority, Rian found himself in the middle of the battle. He remembered Chimera's lessons: stay alert, anticipate moves, act decisively. Using the terrain, he led a group of humans to flank a squad of aliens, throwing makeshift explosives that disrupted their formation. He felt a surge of pride as his actions contributed to the defense. The battle raged for hours. Aliens advanced, then retreated, testing the rebels' resolve. Chimera fought at the forefront, her golden eyes glowing, her strength unmatched. She guided Rion, showing him how to anticipate attacks and exploit weaknesses. Slowly, the tide turned. Rion realized that humans were not weak. Their courage, determination, and adaptability were weapons as powerful as any alien technology. He felt a sense of unity with the other rebels. They fought not just for survival, but for freedom, for justice, for a future where humans could thrive. As the last wave of aliens was repelled, the sanctuary remained intact. The humans and their allies cheered, exhausted but triumphant. Rion stood beside Chimera, breathing heavily, his body sore, but his spirit alive. Chimera placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did well," she said. "You acted with courage, intelligence, and determination. Humans have the strength to rise, to resist, and to survive. Today, you proved it." Rion looked around at the rebels, at the sanctuary they had defended, and felt a deep sense of pride. He had gone from a captive, broken, and afraid, to a fighter, capable and courageous. He realized that humans could endure even the harshest challenges, adapt to any danger, and rise above fear. That night, Chimera and Rion sat together on a rocky outcrop, overlooking the sanctuary. The stars sparkled above them, distant and brilliant. Rion reflected on the battle, on the lessons he had learned, and on the bond he had formed with Chimera. "Do you think humans can defeat the aliens?" he asked softly. Chimera looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly. "We already have," she said. "Humans survive where others would fail. They endure, adapt, and rise. Today we fought together, and today humans proved their strength. There will be more battles, more challenges, but you have learned something vital. Courage and intelligence can overcome even the greatest odds." Rion nodded, feeling a fire ignite within him. He understood now that freedom was not given. It was earned. It was fought for, and it was worth every risk, every struggle, every sacrifice. As the night deepened, the sanctuary quieted. Rebels tended to the wounded, repaired defenses, and shared stories of courage. Rion sat beside Chimera, feeling a sense of purpose he had never known before. He was no longer just a survivor. He was a fighter, a thinker, and a symbol of human potential. Chimera glanced at him, her expression unreadable but gentle. "You are no longer a prisoner," she said. "You are yours. But you have chosen to fight, to rise, and to stand beside humans in their struggle. That is your choice. That is your strength." Rion felt a surge of gratitude and determination. Chimera had broken his chains, guided him through the desert, taught him to survive and fight. Now he had found his place among the rebels, fighting for a future where humans could thrive. The battle had ended, but the journey was far from over. Rion understood that challenges awaited, that dangers were always present, and that the alien overlords would not give up easily. Yet he also knew that humans could endure, adapt, and rise. With Chimera by his side, he could face anything. As he looked out over the sanctuary, bathed in moonlight, Rion made a promise to himself. He would fight, he would learn, and he would protect those who could not protect themselves. He would honor the trust Chimera had placed in him. He would prove that humans could rise above any challenge. The rebellion had begun, and Rion was ready. He was no longer a captive, no longer weak, no longer afraid. He was human, strong, and capable. And with Chimera leading the way, he knew that freedom was within reach, that humans could rise to meet any challenge the galaxy placed before them. The sun rose over the rebel sanctuary, casting a golden glow across the valley. Birds sang in the trees, and the gentle wind carried the scent of fresh earth. But the calm was deceptive. Chimera and Rion knew the alien overlords would not rest. Their forces were regrouping, stronger and more determined than before. Today, the final confrontation would begin. Rian stood at the edge of the sanctuary, his makeshift weapon in hand. He looked out over the mountains, where the alien army would emerge. His muscles were tense, his mind sharp. Chimera stood beside him, her golden eyes glowing faintly, her body poised and ready. Together, they had trained, survived, and grown stronger. Today, they would prove that humans could fight, endure, and rise. "Are you ready?" Chimera asked, her voice calm yet commanding. Rian nodded. "I am ready," he said. "I will fight. I will do whatever it takes." Chimera placed a hand on his shoulder. "Good. Remember what I taught you. Courage is important, but strategy is stronger. Think, act, and lead. Humans have the strength to survive, to endure, and to win." The alien forces appeared in the distance, a dark wave of metal and energy. Their ships hovered above the mountains, and their soldiers moved with precision, confident in their power. But Rian no longer felt fear. He felt determination. He felt the strength of humans and the guidance of Chimera. Chimera moved swiftly, leading Rian and a group of rebels toward a hidden ridge. From there, they could attack strategically, using the terrain to their advantage. Rian noticed the clever traps they had set Trox positioned to fall, narrow paths to funnel enemies, and hidden pits. Humans had prepared, using intelligence and adaptability to level the playing field. As the first wave of alien soldiers approached, Rian felt his heart pound. He remembered the labor camp, the chains, the fear. All of that had brought him to this moment. He would not be powerless again. The battle began with a roar. Alien energy blasts cut through the air, but the rebels were ready. They dodged, countered, and struck with ingenuity. Rian led a small team through a narrow path, flanking a group of aliens. Using rocks, traps, and makeshift explosives, they disrupted the enemy formation. Rian acted quickly, thinking ahead, anticipating movements, and directing others. Chimera moved through the battlefield like a force of nature. Her strength, speed, and skill were unmatched. She protected the weakest, led the attack, and inspired every human who fought alongside her. Rian watched and learned, then acted, combining human creativity with her guidance. Together, they were unstoppable. Hours passed. The sun climbed high and the battle raged. Aliens advanced, then fell back, testing the rebels' resolve. But every time humans adapted, striking where the enemy least expected, Rian felt a surge of pride. Humans were not weak. They were clever, courageous, and capable of rising above even the greatest danger. At one point, a squad of aliens cornered Rian and several rebels. They were outnumbered, weapons drawn. Rian's hand shook for a moment, but he remembered Chimera's lessons. He observed the terrain, noted the enemy's weaknesses, and acted. With quick thinking, he led the group to a narrow pass, where the aliens could not use their numbers effectively. They fought strategically, using intelligence and courage to survive. Chimera noticed his actions. She approached swiftly, her golden eyes approving. "Well done," she said. "You are learning to lead. Humans have the power to think, adapt, and overcome. That is why we find hand. That is why we will win." The battle reached its climax when the alien commander appeared, a towering figure with advanced armor and weapons. He moved with lethal precision, confident in his ability to crush the rebels. Chimera stepped forward, her energy glowing brightly. Rian followed, his courage unwavering. The fight was intense. The commander struck with power and skill, but Chimera's strength matched his. Rian used every lesson he had learned: strategy, observation, and courage to assist. He coordinated traps, redirected enemy movements, and inspired the humans around him. For the first time, he saw clearly that humans were not just survivors, they were leaders. Thinkers and fighters capable of greatness. Chimera and Rian fought side by side, their movements synchronized. Humans and allies supported them, turning the tide of battle. Rian felt a surge of determination and pride. He was not just a fighter. He was a symbol of human courage and ingenuity, standing alongside Chimera against overwhelming odds. Finally, the commander fell, defeated by the combined efforts of humans and Chimera. The remaining aliens retreated, disorganized and demoralized. The sanctuary was safe. Humans had proven their strength, endurance, and ingenuity. Rian collapsed to his knees, exhausted but triumphant. Chimera knelt beside him, her hand on his shoulder. "You did well," she said. "Today, humans have shown their power. You have endured, adapted, and risen. That is the strength of your kind. Never forget it." Rian looked around at the sanctuary, at the rebels who had fought bravely, and at Chimera. He felt pride, gratitude, and awe. Humans had faced oppression, danger, and fear, and they had risen. He realized that courage, determination, and intelligence were more powerful than any chain, any weapon, any overlord. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of red and gold, Rian and Chimera stood on a ridge overlooking the valley. The sanctuary below was alive with celebration, but Rian's thoughts were deeper. He had discovered strength within himself, the courage to fight and the wisdom to lead. He was no longer a captive. He was free, capable, and human. Chimera turned to him, her golden eyes reflecting the sunset. "You are yours now, Rian," she said. "I claimed you as an ally, but you chose to rise, to fight, and to lead. That is your power. Humans endure, and you have proven it." Rian felt a warmth in his chest. He understood now that freedom was not just escaping chains. Freedom was courage, action, and the ability to protect and inspire others. He had grown stronger, not just physically, but in spirit and mind. Humans were capable of greatness, and he had seen it firsthand. "Thank you," he said softly. "You believed in me when I could not believe in myself. You showed me what humans can do." Chimera smiled faintly. "You did this yourself, Rian. I guided you, but the strength, courage, and ingenuity came from within you. Humans are remarkable, and you have proven it." The rebels gathered around them, celebrating the victory. They had defended their sanctuary, defeated the alien forces, proved that humanity could endure even the harshest oppression. Rian felt a deep connection to every human there. They had fought together, survived together, and risen together. As night fell, the valley glowed with fires and laughter. Humans shared stories of courage, of lessons learned, and of victories earned. Rian sat beside Chimera, feeling a sense of belonging and purpose he had never known in the labor camp. "You have grown," Chimera said quietly. "Not just as a fighter, but as a human capable of leading and inspiring. Remember this feeling, Rian. It is the power of humans, and it will guide you in the challenges to come." Rian nodded, understanding fully. He had faced captivity, fear, and danger. He had survived, learned, and risen. He had seen the strength of humans, their courage, and their ingenuity, and he had done it alongside Chimera, the Chimera lady who had broken his chains and guided him to freedom. The night was calm, the stars sparkling above and the desert stretching endlessly in every direction. Rian knew the battle was won, but the journey of humans was just beginning. Freedom was hard-earned, and it was precious. He would protect it, cherish it, and help others rise, just as he had risen. Chimera stood, her eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. "The galaxy underestimates humans," she said. "They endure, adapt, and rise. Never forget that. And never forget the courage that brought you here." Rian stood beside her, feeling the weight of her words and the fire within himself. He had been a captive, but he was no longer weak. He was free, strong, and human. And with Chimera at his side, he knew that humans could rise above any challenge, face any danger, and change the galaxy itself. The desert wind blew gently, carrying the promise of a new beginning. Rian looked out over the sanctuary and smiled. Humans had won this battle, but more importantly, they had discovered their power, and he had discovered his own. He turned to Chimera. "What now?" he asked. She smiled, a mix of pride and determination in her eyes. Now, we rebuild. We strengthen humanity. We rise together. And we show the galaxy what humans are truly capable of. Rian nodded, feeling a deep sense of purpose. He had been claimed as an ally, guided by Chimera, and tested in ways he could not have imagined. But more than anything, he had been awakened to the strength within himself and within all humans. As the fires of the sanctuary flickered in the night, Rian knew one thing for certain. Humans endured. Humans adapted. Humans rose. And with Chimera leading the way, he would rise with them, ready to face any challenge, and to claim the future he had earned. The chains were gone. The fear was gone. The future was theirs to shape. And for Rian, that was freedom beyond measure.